Hi everyone, welcome along. Today we're going to have a go at painting a snowdrop, but today we're going to do it using masking fluid and doing a gorgeous wash background, something a little bit different. So grab your paints and let's get started. The setup looks a bit different. We've got a palette with masking fluid in. Here's the art masking fluid I use, Windsor and Newton, and also you can have a special applicator, but I just use a brush that's a bit past its prime. It's a bit tufty, that one, so I'm going to be using that. The first thing I'm going to do is to draw the snowdrop. I'm going to put a wash in on the background, but I want the white petals to show up, so we're going to put the masking fluid in, which means that I'm actually going to draw this flower quite sort of properly and precisely, which is not really something I do a lot of. I like to teach sort of painting to be the main focus of a piece, but every now and then it's good to do things a bit differently. So we'll have another snowdrop up here, so we get the little sort of sepal on the back, and the 3 petals coming out, and of course the central shape as well, which will also be masking fluided. And then when you do your sort of looped stem that curves over, it can be quite useful to just extend the pencil line into the sepal, just so you can see sort of the direction of the flower, which way it should be going. And then you can pop your petals in. Okay, so that's the important bit for the masking fluid, and that's what I want to make sure we've got. So I'm going to paint in the masking fluid on all the white snowdrop petals. So masking fluid, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is it's kind of exactly what it says on the tin, the liquid masking effect, which means you paint it on, you let it dry, and you let it dry in natural time. Don't try and speed it up with a heat gun or anything. And then you can paint watercolour over the top, and once the watercolour paint is dry, you can very sort of easily rub it off just by rubbing it lightly with your finger, and it just sort of curls away like sort of glue, and beneath will be a perfect untouched, unpainted area, which you then can just leave, or then it's your opportunity to do a little bit of detail on if you should so want. So we'll just get this done and we'll let it dry fully, and then we can get on with our painting. So I've given that a few minutes, and that is just tacky now. It's not coming away in my finger, so I can move on to the next stage. So I am going to do a wash with a very dilute cobalt turquoise. For some reason my cobalt turquoise is quite grainy. I think it's quite old. So I'm just giving it a good old swish around in the palette to sort of minimise the amount of sort of grains in there. And I'm also going to have a bit of sap green in there as well, but let's go. So I want it to be really nice and dilute, but you can see the colour is sort of beading up on the snowdrops, so that's cool. And then I'm gonna just take a little bit of, there we go, just a little bit there, and let's have just a few splatters. They don't tend to be that visible once it's all dried, but it's fun. Okay, so we need to let that dry 100%. Okay, so that's nice and dry now, and I'm going to place in the stems in a nice wash of a slightly yellowy green. So I use green gold and sap green mixed together. You could always just use green and yellow tones to get what you need. And I'm going to just keep this nice and simple with my size 2 brush and place in leaves, as well as stems. Just remember to keep it nice and dilute, because we're going to be putting in detail with the smaller brush in a more concentrated manner once that's dried. Okay, that's dried nicely. I'm keeping the masking fluid on the flowers just for the time being, and I've got my rigger brush here, and I've got some concentrated sap green, and I am now going to use the rigger brush to do some sort of outline detail. As I was saying in the carnation project, I've been really enjoying 1950s sort of illustrated patterns that seem to do quite a lot of this style of drawing, where you get a sort of fairly loose wash and then do an outline that isn't really an outline, because you can see I'm not following everything closely or exactly. I am just sort of adding a bit of sort of extra detail, and it doesn't always have to be fine lines, it can be a little bit of a broader line too. And Snowdrops do have this extra addition to their stem that sort of just when it curls over, the other bit sort of shoots off up into the sky. Then I'm going to use the rigger brush to just do these long stems. I do sell these brushes in my web shops, and you'll be glad to know we're fully back in business, back in stock after a Christmas break. So if you want to have a go with these kinds of brushes, then you can find them. All the brushes I use, actually. There we go. I'm just going to use my little brush to just do a few sweeps of extra colour. And we'll let that dry and then we can do the flowers. It's time to take the masking fluid off, so I'm just going to lightly, gently peel away with my finger, just like that, and you can see it comes away in one little piece. You must make sure that the paint around it is dry so that you don't end up smudging that with your finger. And what I can do now is I can add a bit of detail to this unpainted area so that it looks like it belongs in the piece. So I'll get a larger brush. I'm going to take a little bit of green gold, a little bit of Payne's grey, and I'm going to do some sort of delicate lines and outlines. So this is a much more dilute colour for an outline, but I'm sure you'll agree that because I'm painting on top of unpainted space, it doesn't really matter. And there we go. I was trying to sort of get an outline that wasn't an outline, one that sort of missed the mark a bit. The last little thing is I'm going to take a tiny bit of cadmium yellow and just add a few little brush strokes in the middle there. And yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, we could add just the tiniest bit of extra, more concentrated colour from the petals at the top there, so it's just a bit more Payne's grey in the mix. But you know, this is a stylised piece done sort of simply, so we don't want to overcomplicate it. So there you go. I just need to rub out the pencil and then we're done. So I'll just let that dry and then we'll have a look at the finished piece. And there's the finished piece. And if you haven't seen the carnation we painted earlier on this week, you can see this kind of style, how it can really look really cheerful and lovely, and it's just a different approach to painting flowers in watercolour. So I really hope you enjoy having a go at that one. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that one. I want to say a huge thank you to my patrons for their support, because that support enables us to keep creating videos like these that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed it, then hit the like button, comment below, and of course, if you never want to miss another video, hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell, and we'll see you again next time.